Let's talk about sports. Sports of yesterday, now, and days to come. All sorts of sports for all kinds of listeners. Enterprise Radio, the sports network, has plenty of talk 91 hours a week with well-known hosts and celebrity guests. You can converse about this and that by simply calling an 800 toll-free number. Get your share of sports talk.
Enterprise Sports Network. You get more than the score.
Well, the Cowboys finally got a field goal out of that as time is running out at Schaefer Stadium in Foxborough. Rafael Septien from about 15, 20 yards out as the Dallas Cowboys lead the New England Patriots 35-21. I don't have a reading on it in front of me, but I do believe that the NFC is doing rather well so far against the AFC this year as I run it down through my memory over the past few weeks or so. See, Philadelphia over New England, now Dallas over New England, Philadelphia over Buffalo. I think there are quite a few others. And I think that we'll try to make a little study out of that and keep maybe mark it down a little bit. But of course, what we're talking about here is Dallas and Philadelphia. You're talking about the two top teams in the NFC. However, we'll dig down a little deeper and to see how that is going to go. However, with time running out again, it's Dallas leading the New England Patriots on the Monday Night Football game 35-21. Now, at Olympic Stadium in Montreal, Steve Carlton started against Ray Burris. Well, Montreal has now won the game, at least according to the monitor on the screen, 1-0 in 17 innings, and hopefully we'll get a report on that momentarily. However, Carlton started against Burris, and Carlton struck out 12, and it is really a shame to pitch like that. But, of course, Burris pitched just as well as Montreal, at least according to the monitor in the studio, has defeated Philadelphia now 1-0 in the 17th inning. Other games saw St. Louis down Chicago 2-0. And also, again, according to the monitor, in the 13th inning, New York defeated Pittsburgh 4-3. Top of the 7th at San Diego, leading Cincinnati 6-0. In the American League, that fight in the American League East, Boston won over Milwaukee 9-3. Eckersley the winner. He is 9-6. Moose Haas taking the loss. He's 9-7. A home run by Stapleton, his 8th of the year. Detroit over Baltimore 5-1. The winner is Milt Wilcox. He is 11-8. McGregor is the loser. He is 11-4. Dwyer, a home run for Baltimore in the losing cause. Oakland at Toronto is rained out. They'll play a twilight doubleheader tomorrow. Cleveland down New York at New York's Yankee Stadium tonight, 5-0. Waits over May. Texas over Seattle 4-1. The winner is Danny Darwin. He is 9-8. Stoddard the loser. He's 2-1. Minnesota over Kansas City 7-2. Williams the winner. He's 6-8. Hammaker the loser 1-3. And in the 4th inning, it's California with a 4-1 lead over Chicago. We'll get to your telephone calls right after this. Well, we did a little investigation as far as the AFC, NFC so far, and what I thought was an NFC advantage has turned into an even situation, 3-3, as time has just run out at Foxborough, and the Dallas Cowboys have joined the ranks of the undefeated teams, and the New England Patriots are still winless. Final score tonight, Dallas Cowboys 35, the New England Patriots 21. Now back to our premise before. The NFC wins. Philadelphia has 2 and Dallas 1. All right, so it's Philadelphia defeating New England, Philadelphia over Buffalo, and Dallas tonight over New England. You notice that New England has lost 2 of those 3 games. On the other side, Houston has defeated Los Angeles, Miami has defeated St. Louis, and Oakland has defeated Minnesota. So it is 3-3. Our telephone number, area code 800-243-8111. Let's go to the telephones in Detroit. Greg, it's your turn.
Hi, Ira. Who do you like in the NFC East now with both Dallas and Philadelphia undefeated?
I really think that they are so close, and the teams are so well matched that it's going to come down to that last game of the season between the two. And since the game is in Dallas, I don't know, objectively, I think that Dallas, after last year, might win that game. However, I think one or the other will be a wild card team. So
it should easily make the playoffs.
Yeah, so it really doesn't make that much difference. But just off the top of my head, I'd probably say Dallas might win it. However, in the playoffs, I got to go with Philadelphia.
Okay, I want to make a comment about the Lions, and I think that a lot of their problem is they're too predictable. In other words, they've got a good running game, a very good running game, but they use it too much. First down, second down, about 80% of the time they run, and the defense knows it, and then they got third and long or something.
Well, there could be a reason.
They're going to pass.
There could be a reason for that. You have Gary Danielson throwing the ball, but are his receivers open? Does he have the speed to have those people get open?
Well, before the game against Minnesota, he was leading the NFC in percentage of completion. So.
Yeah, but how many of those were, the short type of things that pick up two?
Detroit doesn't actually go for the bombs, but I don't think they dump around like Minnesota does.
Yeah.
The short dump passes, they throw a lot over the middle, and I think they should open up the offense more to break the game open a little more from what I've seen so far.
Well, I think that many of the coaches in the National Football League are still living 3 or 4 years back, whereby that was more prudent than throwing the ball all the time. However, the progressive rule changes that have been made over the past 5 years, I think dictates that you must throw the ball more now. And you take a look at some of the coaches that are not winning all the time, and you see some of the more conservative coaches like a Bart Starr, who although he has he does have the quarterback instincts of being the great quarterback that he was, is one of the more conservative coaches around. And you take a look over and over again, and you see more and more conservative coaches, and I think that's something that is going to have to be rectified. Greg, thank you very much for the call. 15 minutes past the hour, and this is Enterprise Radio, the sports network. I'm Ira Melman, and it's my pleasure to welcome to Enterprise Radio and our national audience the third baseman for the New York Mets, Hubie Brooks. And Hubie, over and over again, we get the question as, who do I think is the National League Rookie of the Year? And I named 3 people, in Valenzuela, Raines, and you. But probably with publicity, although you play in New York, maybe Fernando Valenzuela might get more publicity than you do. Do you ever get into that type of thought pattern as to thinking your chances for that award?
No. Well, at the beginning of the season, I wasn't out here. It wasn't a goal for me to win Rookie of the Year. It was for me to make this ball club. It was for me to play on this ball club, and whatever happens, happens. I was only here to help us win ball games. If I win the Rookie of the Year, fine. If not, it's not that bad. I mean, after all, Tim Raines and Fernando Valenzuela are great ball players.
So really, you don't set up a situation where you could be disappointed if you don't get it then, huh?
Oh, no. No problem.
You were not a third baseman last year, if I'm correct. Is that right?
You're right.
All right. What was the transition like, moving over to third base into a situation where there's been so many third basemen for the New York Mets, number one, and number two, just as far as the fundamentals of the position are concerned?
Well, the hardest part was believing that I could play the position every day and do well enough to stay in the lineup and do well enough for us to win.
What did you do during the strike, if it was something you did during the strike, to come out as hot as you did in the second half of the season?
Well, I was around the New York area for a while. Then I went on to Houston, Texas for a little vacation. I came back, and I had time enough to think, and I really understood how much the game really meant to me. Because this was the first time I was ever without baseball when I wanted to play. And it means a whole lot to me. I found that out during the strike, and I hope it won't ever, ever be another strike.
Was there anything that you did specifically as far as working out, keeping yourself in shape, that you think might have led to the way you started out the second half of the season?
Yeah, well, I kept myself pretty much in shape. I ran a couple miles 3 times per week, played a little catch. I didn't get any batting practice because it's hard to get batting practice here. You don't have the right baseballs, and you don't have the facility to hit consistently.
What about the Mets' chances in the second half? How do you view them now?
Well, where we're playing now, I think our chances are just as good as the Philadelphia Phillies, just as good as the LA Dodgers, just as good as the New York Yankees.
another extra inning game, and I don't know, obviously you weren't listening to a national telecast of a football game today, and Howard Cosell just, every time the Mets win a game at the end of the year, just starts, getting up the old New Yorkers root for the Mets again. Is that happening at Shea Stadium again, or have things remained kind of calm at Shea?
Well, no, they're coming out. They're rooting for us. It's a good feeling when you know that the fans are behind you. That makes you want to go out and do a lot for them, and we know that they want us to win ball games. That's why we're trying our best.
Hubie, I thank you very much for being with us, and I wish you the best of luck the remainder of the way.
Thank you.
Hubie Brooks, third baseman for the New York Mets, here with us on the Sports Network Enterprise Radio. 19 minutes past the hour is the time. I'm Ira Melvin. Our telephone number, 800-243-8111. We shall return after this from your local station. Return to your telephone calls in East Lansing, Michigan. Mark, it's your turn.
How are you, Ira?
Fine, Mark.
Good. Did you hear any of the results of the Michigan State-Ohio State game?
I heard the final score, but I didn't see the stats, and I just saw that Ohio State won the game rather convincingly.
Yeah, I believe they had Morton Anderson kicked a 63-yard field goal for the Spartans.
Really?
Yeah, he's a good one, Ira. I told you before, him and Morton Anderson, they were something else last year. Or him and Ray Stacklett, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Also, I'd like to make a comment about the Lions.
Surely.
I can't believe a 1981 pro football coach named Monty Clark sits on a 1-point lead at Minnesota. That's exactly what he did yesterday.
You can't do that.
You can't.
You just simply cannot do something like that. I did not get a chance to see the game. I followed the score throughout the day. But especially a team that has the potential to score as quickly as Minnesota does, especially with Kramer back.
Right.
You do not sit on any kind of a lead, let alone a 1-point lead.
Do you know if Mark Nichols caught any passes yesterday?
No, I don't think he did. I'm not certain, but I don't think he did.
No.
I didn't even know he played.
Yeah, he was in the third quarter. Monty sent him in.
Because he was listed as somewhat questionable for the game.
Right. Also, I'd like to make a comment about the Tigers now. After their drought of 5 or so games, I think they're back. Milt Wilcox pitched a superb game tonight. He just kept the hitters off balance all night.
As I said on the last hour of the program, is that Wilcox historically has not been an effective pitcher in September. And if he can pitch the type of game he did tonight for the Tigers down the stretch, then I think they might be in pretty good shape with Morris and with the bullpen coming through.
Do you think that Alan Trammell and Lou Whitaker are one of the best double play combinations in baseball?
I think they are one of the best, yes.
Okay, all right. Have a good night, all right?
You too. Thank you very much for the call. Let's go to New York City. Bert, it's your turn.
Yeah, this is Bert from New York.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to know, what do you think's happened to the Yankees? They just look terrible.
Well, it's either that they really don't care that much because they don't have to, until maybe the last week of the regular season when they get themselves in gear for the playoffs, or that it's time again for another George Steinbrenner outburst. Now, he can't fire Lemon now, although he could, but I don't think he will. I do think, however, that it has almost become a situation whereby the Yankees almost need that to be. They need the proverbial kick in the behind from the owner, and they're expecting it. And
you think he'll hire Williams?
I sure hope he does. I think that that Williams is one of the finest managers in baseball, and to have him just sitting down in Tampa and not doing what he knows how to do best, I think is an awful waste. And I really think that Dick Williams is one of the finest managers in baseball right now.
Well, I'd just like to say that if they don't get their butts in gear, Boston or Detroit's going to end up taking it.
Well, it sure is a possibility, but do keep in mind that no matter what they do in the end of this regular season, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. Sure, you talk about momentum going into a postseason, and probably the only thing that matters there is how they play in the last week of the season. The only thing that really matters as far as play now for the four teams, Philadelphia, Oakland, Philadelphia, Detroit. What am I doing? Philadelphia, Los Angeles, New York, and Oakland. It really doesn't matter what they do in the second half of the season. It's as simple as that.
Barron's. If you want to make better investment and business decisions, no publication helps you more than Barron's. In recent issues, Barron's surveyed the tax advantages of real estate investment, pointing out concrete ways the new tax bill could build a sizable shelter for investors. Barron's also covered the revolution in video entertainment, focusing on why the profit picture may be brighter than ever for makers of TV sets. Another Barron's article spotlighted an extraordinary Wall Street performer, a man with an uncanny ability to pick winning stocks in good or bad markets. Week after week, Barron's can help you make money or avoid losing money.
Get 20 weeks of Barron's for only $21. To order, call this toll-free number now, 800-648-5321. That's 800-648-5321. Barron's, National Business and Financial Weekly from Dow Jones.
Let's continue with your calls now on Enterprise Radio in Miami. Joe, it's your turn.
Yeah, how you doing?
Fine, Joe.
Listen, the AFC seems to be turning into a two-team race.
Two-team? I don't know. I think it's too early to say it's two-team yet. Just because a couple of teams win a couple of days, sure time is running out. But nevertheless, it is very, very easy for a team like Baltimore to turn right around on Detroit tomorrow. And, you know, the same thing with Milwaukee. It's very easy to do, and with the standings and situations as they are now, I really can't say that you can narrow it down to a two-team race already.
What do you think of the University of Miami Hurricane football team?
I'm very impressed with them so far. I know that Howard Schnellenberger, their coach, was not impressed with their victory the other night, but they won. And he was not impressed with the protection that his quarterback got, Jim Kelly. However, they have what we've been talking about all night, and that is that ability and desire to win a game that hangs in the balance.
You know, the main thing is that they look like almost a Dolphin team. They have a hell of a defense and not too much offense to speak about. You know, the 7 points that Houston scored was actually on an interception, so that was really a nothing game there as far as offense putting any points on the game.
Yeah. Well, it is a very exciting team nonetheless, especially that first game when, what's the field goal kicker's name?
Danny Miller, 55 yards.
Yeah, Miller bounces it off the crossbar.
What do you see them doing against Texas?
I think they'll lose against Texas. However, they are a team that can pull an upset against Texas. However, I just think that the football players on Texas overall are better than the football players on the University of Miami.
Okay, and do you see anything good for the Dolphins?
Yeah, sure, I see good for the Dolphins. They have a very tough schedule, rated out as the toughest schedule in the NFL. However, you know, I was really questioning yesterday when Shula pulled Woodley at the half and then put in Strock, but I'm, you know, thinking back more and more. He used to do that with Greasy all the time, remember?
You weren't the only one, though. Down here, there's a big stink about it.
Well, what are most people saying?
You know, that, Woodley was winning the ballgame 9-7 when they pulled him out. He was moving the team. There was a few drop passes, and granted, he did throw over the head, but the way Shula feels is that he's got two quarterbacks that are capable of starting on any team in the NFL.
What he said was that when he has to, he can go to the bullpen. That's what he said. That was his quote. And the thing is that if he can convince David Woodley that is all it is, that Woodley is still his starter, that Woodley is the guy he will go with, and not take away from his confidence, then he's okay. Most coaches around the National Football League will say that you have a starter, and that is the starter. Because once he feels that he is no longer the starter and can be pulled in any instant, then you lose part of the confidence that is necessary to direct an NFL club. But apparently Shula has had success, Shula has had success with Greasy through the years and Morrill, and apparently feels he can do that.
Well, he definitely said today that Woodley would be the starter next week against Baltimore, so evidently it wasn't something that was because he thought it was drilled bad, because, like I said, Woodley had a hell of a preseason, 24, 26 passes completed. And they've got a hell of a chance. If they only had a running back like Earl Campbell, I think they'd be dangerous.
Well, the thing is they are dangerous. I think you got a kid there, at least, maybe one of two, But you take that run back a couple of weeks ago on Thursday by Tommy Vigorito, and you see the moves that he possesses, and who knows what Andrew Franklin can do yet. They're not big, but they sure are the type of runners like a possibility of a Walter Payton or a Wilbert Montgomery who can do a job like that, and that's enough for you.
Oh, I'd love to see a hell of a running game down there.
Yeah, it would be good, wouldn't it?
Bronco kick combination or something like that again.
Thank you very much for your telephone call. Coming up on 30 minutes past the hour, I'm Ira Melman. This is National Sports Talk on the Sports Network Enterprise Radio. A couple open lines for you now. 800-243-8111. 800-243-8111. We shall continue with your calls after this from your local station.
Enterprise Radio has more than headlines and bylines. The Sports Network brings you closer to the old ball game by talking with the people who play it. Keep listening.
Albany's first country music station, 1460 WOKO, Albany.
This is Enterprise Radio, the Sports Network, our national sports talk program. I'm Ira Melman at Montreal tonight. Andre Dawson singled home Rodney Scott in the bottom of the 17th inning. And the Montreal Expos blanked the Philadelphia Phillies 1-0. The victory kept the Expos within 1.5 games of the first-place St. Louis Cardinals in the National League East. Loser Jerry Reed, who was 0-1, gave up a one-out single to Scott and then walked Warren Cromartie and Jerry White before Dawson hit a grounder to third baseman Mike Schmidt. Schmidt threw to catcher Keith Moreland, but Scott beat the throw to the plate, giving Montreal the victory. Rookie Brian Smith, who's 1-0, earned his first Major League decision. Left-hander Steve Carlton, who entered the game with 3,116 strikeouts, broke Bob Gibson's all-time National League record when he struck out Dawson with the bases loaded in the third. That was only Carlton's second strikeout of the game, but he went on to fan 10 more batters for a career total of 3,128. Carlton has struck out 10 or more 58 times in his career, and that is more than strikeouts than any other left-hander in history. In New York, Shea Stadium tonight, Mark Lee's wild pitch in the 13th scored John Stearns from third, and the New York Mets defeated the Pittsburgh Pirates 4-3. With one out, Lee walked Stearns, and Ron Gardenheim followed with a single to right, sending Stearns to third. With Brian Giles at the plate, Lee uncorked a wild pitch on a 1-2 delivery. The winner in relief was Dan Boitano. Other games, San Diego down Cincinnati 6-0. It was St. Louis over Chicago by a score of 2-0. In the American League, Boston over Milwaukee 9-3. The winner is Dennis Eckersley. He is 9-6. Moose Haas takes the loss. He is 9-7. Stapleton a home run in that game. Detroit over Baltimore 5-1. They keep their lead in the American League East. Wilcox over McGregor. Milt Wilcox is 11-8. Scott McGregor 11-4. Dwyer a home run in a losing cause for the Orioles. Oakland at Toronto was rained out. They'll make it up as a twilight doubleheader tomorrow night. Cleveland blanked New York at Yankee Stadium 5-0. Waits over May. Waits is 7-9. May 6-11. Texas 4-1 over Seattle. Darwin is the winner. He's 9-8. Stoddard the loser 2-1. Minnesota 7. Kansas City 2. The winner is Williams. He is 6-8. Haneker, the loser, he is 1-6. And in the bottom of the sixth inning, it's California leading Chicago by a score of 4-1. We shall return momentarily with a look at the Monday night football game, Dallas over New England, right after this message from your local station. They did play the Monday night game at Foxborough. That was in doubt, if you'll remember, a month or so back when the fathers, or not the fathers, the people who run, the selectmen, that's what they're called, in Foxborough, decided that they didn't want the game to start at 9 o'clock. They wanted it to start at 8 o'clock because people tended to get somewhat rowdy at that stadium in Foxborough. Well, it was all settled, at least temporarily, and they played the game starting at 9 o'clock Eastern Time tonight. However, it didn't make any difference for the New England Patriots not having the best of years. Tony Dorsett regained the National Football League rushing lead by rolling up 162 yards, 75 on a touchdown burst, and Danny White threw 2 scoring passes to spark the unbeaten Dallas Cowboys to a 35-21 win over the error-plagued New England Patriots. Dorsett, off to the best start of his 5-year pro career, had rushed for 132 and 129 yards in the first 2 weeks of the season, and his 19 carries in this one boosted his season total to 423 yards before he was forced to leave the game midway through the fourth quarter with bruised ribs, something that's been plaguing him over the last couple of years. His touchdown gave Dallas, now 3-0, a 17-7 lead with 6:56 left in the first half. Dorsett started left and cut back across the field and outran cornerback Ray Claiborne to the end zone. The Patriots, winless in 3 games, closed the halftime gap to 17-14 when rookie Tony Collins capped an 80-yard drive with a 3-yard burst off right tackle. New England grabbed its only lead on the first series of the second half. Mosi Tatupo broke 2 tackles en route to a 38-yard touchdown run, the longest gain of his 4-year NFL career. The Cowboys were forced to punt on their next series, but Roland James fumbled White's kick, and Angelo King recovered at the Patriots' 19. Pardon me. 7 plays later, White found Billy Joe Dupree with a 1-yard lob to give Dallas a 24-21 lead. Raphael Septien kicked a 26-yard field goal, 1 of 4 in the game with 12:06 left to stretch the margin to 27-21. Cowboys then added a safety when New England quarterback Matt Cavanaugh, starting in place of Steve Grogan, was called for intentionally grounding a pass from the end zone. Septien field goals of 27 and 25 yards in the fourth quarter, the last with exactly 1 minute to play, closed the scoring. White's first touchdown pass, a 28-yarder to Butch Johnson, put Dallas on top 7-0 with 5:19 left in the first quarter, but Don Calhoun's 4-yard run tied the game late in the period before Septien booted his first field goal, a 26-yarder, 5:05 into the second period. Cavanaugh threw 4 interceptions, 3 of which led to Dallas scores, and the Patriots lost 3 fumbles, including one that preceded the second Dallas touchdown. So a very sloppy game on both sides, really, for both the Dallas Cowboys and the New England Patriots, and Dallas is victorious. Here's the way the standings look in the NFL now. In the National League, National Conference East, Philadelphia and Dallas are tied at 3-0. Then come the New York Giants, believe it or not, at 2-1, the St. Louis Cardinals at 1-2, and the Washington Redskins at 0-3. In the Central Division, Tampa Bay, Minnesota, Detroit, Green Bay, and Chicago, they're all tied. Everybody in the division has identical 1-2 records at 333. In the West, Atlanta on top at 3-0. Los Angeles at 1-2, San Francisco at 1-2, and New Orleans at 1-2. In the AFC, in the East, Miami is on top at 3-0, followed by Buffalo's 2-1. Baltimore is 1-2, and New England and the New York Jets are both 0-3. Both of those teams, the New York Jets and the New England Patriots, people thought would turn things around this year. They obviously have not done that so far. In the AFC Central, Cincinnati and Houston tied for the top spot at 2-1, and Pittsburgh and Cleveland at 1-2. Then in the West, it's San Diego at 3-0, Kansas City and Oakland and Denver at 2-1, and Seattle at 1-2. Here is the lineup for games next Sunday. Atlanta at Cleveland, Buffalo at Cincinnati, Houston at the Jets, Washington at Philadelphia, New England at Pittsburgh, Oakland at Detroit, Minnesota versus Green Bay at Milwaukee, Miami at Baltimore, Kansas City at Seattle, New Orleans at San Francisco, the Giants at Dallas, St. Louis at Tampa, San Diego at Denver, and next week's Monday night game is Los Angeles at Chicago. Let's go to the telephones. In Detroit, Dale, it's your turn. Are you there?
Hello?
Yes, sir.
This is Don from Miami.
Oh, Don, I had the wrong button. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I got a lot of things to talk about. I'm a first-time caller, and first thing I want to know is, before I hang up, I'm moving to Tampa within 10 days, so before we hang up, maybe you can tell me a local affiliate in that area.
Yeah, we have a station in Clearwater that carries this program, and I believe it's WTAN in Clearwater.
WTAN?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Now I'll go on to the sports matters at hand. First of all, the Leonard Hearns fight. I happen to be for Leonard, and I had Hearns ahead. I don't score by rounds as a 10-point must, and I had Hearns ahead by 2 points at the time. Whether Davy Pearl should have stopped the fight, I could only see it on the pay TV I saw.
But I honestly believe if Hearns' corner really felt that it was a bogus ending, they would have argued a hell of a lot more than they did.
Yeah, as I said, I'm at the disadvantage where I didn't see it, but everything that I have heard and our reports from Bob Page at ringside during that night seem to indicate, especially Bob Page, who, as you know, is from the Detroit area, and worked very closely and covered very closely Tommy Hearns, said to us on the air that Tommy Hearns passed by him and he really seemed to be totally out of it, that he thought Davy Pearl did the right thing.
I think two things people should have learned: that Leonard can take a much better punch than Hearns, and Leonard can throw a good punch of his own.
You know, it's very deceiving. Sugar Ray Leonard is very deceiving. He is very slight of build, and you do not think that he is as powerful as he is. And I think that fooled a lot of people. A lot of people, especially in the Detroit area, thought that Tommy Hearns was invincible. He was not, obviously.
No, obviously speed was the one thing he had never been up against.
Yep.
I like to get some football. I'm a Buccaneer fan, and I really do not care for the Dolphins, but I'm living down here, and I can't help but see that Don Shula is building a heck of a team, and people let it go by, kind of unnoticed, but he traded his punter last year, who was the third or fourth ranked punter in the league,
to San Diego,
for a free agent named Oraz, and this guy Oraz hit a two-step and he punts, and supposedly that will help against the blocks. And the fact he cut Garrow last year or 2 years ago and kept Uwe Shaman are other indications in Don Shula's confidence. And his kicking game is excellent, whereas the Buccaneers, I can honestly say for 2 weeks they've lost because they've had 2 punts returned. The kicking game has been atrocious and certainly not up to NFL standards.
Well, I think another good comparison here is last week's, not last Thursday, but the week before, and that is between Miami and Pittsburgh. Now, Pittsburgh, I think, might have turned it around with their victory against the Jets, but the Jets are really a doormat of the league this year again, unfortunately. But nevertheless, you see, as you said, Don Shula seeing where he needs improvement and also where he can improve his players, even though those players have been a mainstay of his team for quite some time. And he goes and he makes the moves nevertheless. The Pittsburgh Pirates have not done that. They have stayed with their veteran players, and I think they're going to pay the price over the next few years.
It's very interesting. He traded Roberts and got a 6th-round draft choice, and this guy, Vigorita, you mentioned, was a 5th-round draft choice. So those draft choices are, they just aren't, they're not gifts. One must make the most out of them, and Shula had a heck of a draft this year. I hate to admit it. And I'd like to mention something about John McKay. I'm not qualified to say if I think he's a good coach or a bad coach. So far, he hasn't shown me much. The one thing I do say that I don't care for, and what I always like Shula and Jack Pardee about, they never criticize their players in the newspaper. And I just don't care for any type of coach that does that. I just think it lacks leadership. The last thing I like to say, if I have the time, is I like to mention my top 5 worst coaches in the NFL.
All right.
And surprisingly enough, this is before this year began. I must add that, because Don Coryell, for me, heads the list. Now, with Jack Pardee doing his defense, I think he's a better balance. But up through last year, I have Coryell, Earhart, Michaels, Malavasi, and Josh McKay.
All right, now I want to ask you why you put Coryell on top of that list. When you take a look at wherever Coryell has been, he has produced winners. At his overall percentage, I don't know off the top of my head, but he has won far, far more games than he has lost.
Well, I don't necessarily feel a coach is a good coach because he has talent. I think Coryell's had a heck of a lot of talent at San Diego and has lost 2 years in succession in playoffs where I think his talent should have won. And but for Muncie, I think he let his running game just slip by him, and I think I just am not impressed with his team play. I don't think he puts much emphasis in the kicking game and special teams as I'd like to see. And I know he's a very aggressive, offensive-minded coach, but to me, you win championships. You are champions with an excellent defense. Terry Bradshaw won a Super Bowl his first time
when he was still what I call the average quarterback. But they won because they had the super D, and I think that's where you win championships first. That's what's keeping people call back the Miami Hurricanes. It's the defense, or the Miami Dolphins. It's their defense. And just to wrap it up in all sports, I happen to be a San Francisco Giant fan, and the reason they'll never make a championship, they have no defense.
I thank you very much for your call.
Thank you, sir.
14 before the hour. Here's a look at the baseball scoreboard at Fenway Park in Boston tonight. The Red Sox over the Milwaukee Brewers 9-3. Detroit keeps on winning 5-1 over Baltimore, a team they must beat if they intend to win the second half of the National League East. Oakland at Toronto was rained out. They have scheduled a twilight doubleheader for tomorrow. Cleveland blank New York 5-0. Texas 4, Seattle 1. Minnesota over Kansas City 7-2. Bottom of the sixth inning, California leads Chicago 4-1. In the National League, St. Louis over Chicago 2-0. In 17 innings, Montreal down the Philadelphia Phillies 1-0. In 13 innings, New York 4, Pittsburgh 3. San Diego down Cincinnati 6-0. And in the Monday night football game at Schaefer Stadium in Foxborough, Massachusetts, Dallas down the New England Patriots 35-21. Let's go to Detroit and talk with Dale.
Yeah, how you doing, Ira?
Fine, Dale.
Well, tell me something. You got to sympathize with all Michigan sports fans.
By all means. It's not been a good couple of weeks.
Oh, you're not telling me. First U of M falls by. Everybody's predicting the Wolverines to be, taking the national championship, and then they screw up against Wisconsin, who is hardly considered even a decent team, really.
Mm-hmm.
And then Tommy Hearns surprised everybody here in Detroit. I know that I didn't see the fight myself. I know that everyone was keyed up for it. Even the local media was cheering for Hearns. It's been that way for a few years. But Tommy obviously is not the invincible man we all thought he was.
Yeah, well, I think that's a pretty good lesson to learn, that no one is invincible, that there's always going to be someone who's going to be able to step in and be better than someone else is. And I think when that stops being the case, then we better think that something's wrong.
You got to wonder, too, if Tommy's really going to gain from this. Is he going to be a better fighter because of it?
I think that if he was getting an idea that, or believing the press that he was invincible, the answer to that is yes. That along with his maturation as a human being, this could be a part of his maturation as a professional, whereby you just don't go in and know that you just can knock somebody out. That there's going to be somebody good enough, or maybe even better than you, and you have to strive for a plateau whereby you are better than your opponent. It's as simple as that.
I was wondering something early in the bout, not the actual fight, but I'm saying the publicity of it. It was being publicized that the WBA and the WBC were not recognizing this as a title fight. Is that correct?
I think that they finally did recognize it as a title fight. I tried to look into that a little bit, and I got absolutely nowhere. I know there's an answer on it, and I'm sure someone listening does know it.
Right. I had read, at least in one of the Detroit newspapers, that the fight was not being sanctioned by either council because the council hadn't been approved, or the commission, one of the associations had not been contacted first. And finally, I guess it did turn out to be a total championship bout.
Yeah, it did.
I wonder how they came to terms on that.
I think that both of the sanctioning bodies realized that everyone else was going to look at this as a championship fight anyway, despite what they did. And I think that they finally realized that maybe they are not all powerful and all governing, that if they are going to go into their petty politics, as they have for so many years now, and go up against a fight that the rest of the country and the rest of the world is viewing as a world championship, whether they say it is or not, that matters none.
Mm-hmm. I've noticed Detroit fighters they seem to be making a name for themselves on a national level.
Sure, the Kronk Gym, sure.
Yeah, I'm talking about people besides the Kronk people, though. I'm talking about people like Dwight Davison, who is not part of the Kronk team. He's very much a different fighter from that. And then you do have the Kronk people like Mickey Goodwin and Tommy Hearns and Hilmer Kente, and it's just all these people were being built up, and they have these reputations around Detroit as being superb athletes, excellent boxers. Then when they leave town and they fight on the road, they don't seem to do very well. Mickey Goodwin went to Las Vegas. He lost his first bout. Tommy has this defeat. And I'm just wondering, is it possibly that maybe Detroit's boxers are gaining their reputation by beating people in the Olympia Stadium, in the Joe Louis Arena, on the home fights? Is it possible these records were built up just on the fact that they were home fights and maybe hometown decisions?
Sure, it's a possibility. But
Is
again,
it a probability?
I don't know if it's a probability or not. I really have to, look at all the won and lost records and things to that effect, and I have not done that as yet.
I've seen many fights in Detroit, and it seems like the only time you can beat a Detroiter is if you knock him out. You cannot win a decision in Detroit if you are not a Detroit-based fighter. And I wonder if this is the case on a national level. Is it this way in Philadelphia or New York or Las Vegas?
To some extent, but not to the great extent that you're describing to me now. Thank you very much for your telephone call. Coming up on 7 minutes before the hour, this is National Sports Talk on Enterprise Radio. 800-243-8111 is our telephone number with some open lines. And we'll be back after this from your local station. Let's see, transactions today in major sports. In football, the Philadelphia Eagles signed fullback Mickey Fitzgerald and placed wide receiver Alvin Hooks on the injured reserve. And in hockey, the New York Rangers released forwards Ed Smith, Gavin Ginnell, and Gary Kahn, return forwards Mark Morrison and Jim Malone, and goalie John Van Beesbroek to their junior teams. And those are the only two transaction items on the wire this afternoon. It's 4 minutes before the hour. Let's continue on the calls in Milwaukee. Fish, it's your turn.
How you doing, Ira?
Fine, thank you.
Oh, good. I know you don't like trivia questions, but I got the ultimate trivia question for you tonight.
Let's hear it.
Who does Don King's hair?
It's it's the 140-volt socket at his hotel room.
That's what I figured.
Yes.
Let me ask you a question. Do you think the Packers, if they sign Jefferson, are going to wheel him or keep him?
I think they're going to keep him.
Why?
Why? Because it takes a double team off of James Lofton, and also opens up an offense that I think that Bart Starr has been criticized for not utilizing. And I think if he finally does utilize it, he's got a few people there who can throw the ball.
Oh yeah.
And if he's got wide receivers, burners, if you will, on both sides, that means somebody's going to be open. And as long as they can give the quarterback, if the front line can give the quarterback enough time to throw, they're going to win some ball games.
Well, I think what it will do is finally show everybody, if it works out, that Paul Kaufman is a great tight end that doesn't get the recognition that he deserves. Because what I think teams will do is they'll double, which will leave Kaufman open. And who I really think, I'm really sold on Paul Kaufman. I think he's a hell of a receiver. I think he can catch the ball and run with it after he gets it, too. He finds ways of getting open, not deep, but, 8, 10, 12 yards over the middle.
Question to ask, how integral is Kaufman in the blocking scheme for passing?
He's not bad. He moves out well. His inside blocking, it's hard to pick up while you're watching on TV. But downfield, he's pretty good, and he can take off a quarterback real well. He really does a good job. He moves well. He really does. He goes with the flow of the field, really.
Yeah, well. I was referring more and more to with a more determined passing game, you shoot more linebackers in, and therefore many times you're going to have to keep the tight end in.
Oh yeah.
And that might just knock off your premise a little bit.
Yeah. Well, who knows? I don't. It doesn't matter to me one way or the other. I think the whole thing basically was a cheap ploy on Bart's part. I mean, granted, I can't. I'd love to see Jefferson on one side with Lofton on the other, but I think it's really a Bush League cheap ploy on Bart's part to get an instant, somewhat type of winner
to salvage his job. I really do.
Well, I disagree with you. I think that if he can institute a passing game, an effective passing game, that's the way to win in this league right now. And if he salvages his job, fine. But if the Packers win, that's even better for the people who follow that
Hey,
team.
more power to him, I mean, that's all that matters to Packer fans now. I mean, they're sick of waiting,
Right.
And that's exactly what I think the whole thing was done on, that everybody doesn't really care whether the Packers gave up 13 number one draft choices, If they win this year, we'll worry about it when the time comes.
Dave, thank you for your call. We're out of time.
Okay.
That's going to wrap things up for my participation in our National Sports Talk program here on Enterprise Radio. My thanks tonight go to David O'Day, the technical director of this program, and also to Greg Schmaltz, the producer of this program tonight. Have yourself a very pleasant good evening. We'll talk to you again tomorrow night. Good night, everyone, from Enterprise Radio.
King of Capital Country, 1460 WOKO Albany, with country music and the latest sports information. What a combination. And now, sports update.
Sports update from Enterprise Radio. I'm Shelley Adler. The Dallas Cowboys, the latest NFL team to join the 3-0 club as the Patriots lose their third straight, 35-21 the Monday night final. Tony Dorsett ran for 163 yards, and Danny White passed for 2 touchdowns. The Patriots, who opened with backup quarterback Matt Cavanaugh, scored all their touchdowns on the ground. Joining Dallas on the undefeated list, Philadelphia, Atlanta, San Diego, and Miami. 3 clubs still looking for their first win: New England, the Jets, and Bobby Beathard and the Washington Redskins.
I'm concerned, primarily about the Philadelphia Eagles this weekend and injuries. We've just had unbelievable amount of injuries, and we have to get our people healthy and play competitively against the Eagles, and then I think if we can do that, I'm still optimistic.
That's Washington General Manager Bobby Beathard. The Redskins now 0-3. More after this. The St. Louis Cardinals recovered from 3 straight losses to the New York Mets. The league-leading Cards went to Chicago and shut out the Cubs 2-0. Keith Hernandez drove in one of the 2 runs with a sacrifice fly. It must be hard, though, to get psyched up for clubs like the Mets and the Cubs.
We don't think about them. We can't worry about the other teams. They got to catch us, and no one's going to back into it. Yeah, we're going to have to earn it. If we win it, we're going to have to earn it. Whoever wins is going to earn it, and we can't worry about what so-and-so is doing and what the other team is doing. We win, we'll win it.
And if you lose, you'll lose it. Keith Hernandez and the Cardinals breaking their 3-game losing streak. Montreal and Philadelphia went 17 innings. The Expos with the 1-0 win. New York took Pittsburgh 4-3 in 13, and San Diego shut out Cincinnati 6-0. American League, the Detroit Tigers maintained their half-game lead in the American League East with a 5-1 win in Baltimore.
We're just trying to take every game that, as it comes and worry about ourselves, and we're not worrying about anybody else being in or out of the pennant race. As long as we keep winning, the rest of the team's got to catch us.
Detroit pitcher Milt Wilcox, who gave up only 6 hits for his 11th win of the year. The Red Sox won their 3rd straight, 9-3 over Milwaukee, so Boston is a half game behind the Tigers. Cleveland shut out New York 5-0 behind a Rick Waite 6-hitter. He's 7-9. Rudy May took that loss. He's 6-11. Danny Darwin 3-hit the Mariners. Texas over Seattle 4-1. Minnesota dumped Kansas City 7-2. Oakland and Toronto postponed by rain. Top of the 7th, California leads Chicago 4-3. Eddie Murray of the Baltimore Orioles has been named the American League Player of the Week, and rookie third baseman Eubie Brooks of the New York Mets was named Player of the Week in the National League. This is Enterprise Radio, the sports network.
The perfect blend of memorable moments and current events, now available to sports fans across the country. It's all there in the Enterprise Radio once-in-a-lifetime feature with host Bob Cook. A bit of nostalgia, a touch of the present, and a tip of the hat to the great performers in sports. Bob Cook brings you the human interest side of sports through the handiest medium of all, good old radio. Enterprise Radio, the sports network, has the perfect blend with the easy medium, and it sure satisfies.
New York Jets coach Walt Michaels received a vote of confidence from Jets president Jim Kensel on Monday. What that usually means is an imminent firing. The Jets have lost their first 3 games of the season. I'm Shelley Adler, Enterprise Radio Sports.
Good morning. It's 5 minutes after 1 on WOKO Albany. In the news, attorneys for Wayne Williams have told a court in Atlanta that the prosecution may try to tie their client with murders for which he hasn't been charged. Williams is accused of killing 2 men who are considered part of a series of 28 young black murder victims. In Phoenix, Arizona, the jury in the perjury trial of former Attorney General Richard Kleindienst will receive its instructions today and then begin deliberations. Kleindienst could receive a sentence of 100 years in prison if convicted on all 12 counts. A judge has imposed a 6-month prison term on 4 officials of striking teachers union in the Chicago suburb of Elgin, Illinois. They were convicted of contempt of court for defying a back-to-work order. Capital Country weather, light rain and 50 degrees on 1460 WOKO. And now back to the Enterprise Radio Sports Network and our host, Jay Howard.
Welcome to Sports Talk, a service of Enterprise Radio. This is Jay Howard with toll-free numbers for you to dial, and we'll talk sports. National number, 800-243-8111. In Connecticut, 1-800-842-9558 for anything you want to talk about in the world of sports. First up for this hour, football. Monday Night Football, Dallas over New England, and we'll talk with Howard Balls with the Sporting News in just 1 minute. You can, too. Give us a call. We'll be back right after this from your local station.
What kind should we get, the long red packs or the pretty green ones? I don't know. Dad smokes the long red packs, and Mom smokes the green ones. I think I'll look nice smoking the green ones. I'll get the red packs, and then we'll just look like Mom and Dad.
The next time you light up a cigarette, the American Heart Association would like you to remember this phrase: like father, like son, like mother, like daughter. Give up smoking and set a good example for your children.
Be part of the action in every sports attraction. Enterprise Sports has more than a score. The sports news and interviews, commentary too. We cover all the action and bring it to you. Enterprise Sports Network, the sports you want and more. Enterprise Sports Network, you get more than the score.
Okay, welcome back to Sports Talk, everybody. Jay Howard with you, 800-243-8111, number to call right now, and give us a call right now. Howard Balls with the Sporting News will join us in just a moment. Right now, first of all, look at the brief news of the day. Monday Night Football, Dallas over New England in a mistake game, 35-21. New England playing a lot better than the score indicates, but also making a lot of mistakes along the way, costing them a lot of problems. We'll talk about that more in a minute. Baseball news, Steve Carlton of the Phillies became the all-time National League strikeout leader last night in a game against the Expos. He passed Bob Gibson on the all-time National League list, fanning Andre Dawson with the bases loaded in the third to take over the career lead. Left-hander who entered the game with 3,116 strikeouts, struck out 12 in 10 innings of work. So now Steve Carlton is number 1. Players of the week, National League, Hubie Brooks of the Mets, American League, Eddie Murray of the Baltimore Orioles. Football news, Bob Harlan, Green Bay Packers corporate assistant, basically maybe serving the general manager's role or something like that. In other words, he negotiates with people. Says that he is not as optimistic as he had been 3 days earlier when the team acquired John Jefferson from the San Diego Chargers. He says negotiations with Howard Slusher, the agent, and parties, that they were somewhat closer than they had been earlier, but really the demands were a lot higher than they thought. He is not as optimistic. They made a little progress on Monday. The Atlanta Falcons' big play linebacker is in trouble. As a matter of fact, he's in big trouble. Joel Williams
had surgery on his right knee for a torn cartilage. And let's see, I don't know how long he's going to be out. Doesn't say here. 1 month. There it is. 1 month. Joel Williams of the Falcons. Basketball, Clifford Ray of who? Who knows? Used to be of Golden State. He has passed a physical with the Phoenix Suns and will be trying out with them. We told you last week about Doug Collins of the 76ers, a possibility of his career being at an end, another knee injury. He had a torn cartilage removed from his right knee yesterday. His career might very well be over. 800-243-8111. Let's check in right now with Howard Balzer from the Sporting News. And we'll first, Howard, talk about last night's game, the Patriots and the Cowboys, a game where the Patriots, I thought, played better than the score indicates, but they made so many mistakes, critical mistakes. And what can you say about the Cowboys? They're always there to capitalize.
That's true, Jay. And the Patriots, as has been pointed out so many times, just seem to be their own worst enemy. And now they fall to 0-3, and it looked for a while that they were going to, when they went ahead 21-17, it looked like they might be in charge. Kavanaugh was playing well, or he was throwing the ball well, and it looked like it might be the Patriots' night. But the Cowboys, as resilient as they always are, and as I had expected, the running game just ran holes through New England pretty much. Dorsett had a big night, and in the end, it was the Cowboys again, and Dallas and Philadelphia now the only NFC teams to beat an AFC team so far this season.
The injury report that we got from Schaefer Stadium just about 5 minutes ago, Tony Dorsett, who carried the ball 19 times for 162 yards, has a severely sprained right ankle and bruised ribs. That is the only report we have on Dorsett as far as his injury is concerned. Tell you what, let's take our break right now, then we'll come back and go to the phone calls. Back after this. All right, back on Sports Talk. Jay Howard with you. Howard Balls with the Sporting News alongside. Winners in the American League, Boston, Detroit. Oakland, Toronto rained out. Cleveland shut out the Yankees. Texas, Minnesota, top of the 8th. No, make that bottom of the 8th right now. California, 4, and the White Sox, 3. National League winners, St. Louis, Montreal, the Mets, San Diego, and, of course, Dallas won the NFL game. When you come on the air, please give us your first name only, where you're calling from, and please keep your comments as short as possible. Let's go to the phone calls right now. You're on Sports Talk. Hello.
Hi, this is Rocky from Oak Park.
From
I'd
where?
like to ask Howard what he thinks about Malavasi and the Rams.
Well, number one, Malavasi has a 3-year contract, so I would think that he's going to be. The Rams have shown that they're not going to. They don't like to pay people who aren't going to help them. Although you can make a point and say, well, Bob Lee was released with a guaranteed contract, and they have Fred Dreyer on the roster, who's basically not playing, so they're paying him, but they couldn't release him, and he wanted a lot more money to let them get out of the contract, and they wouldn't do it. So I would not expect them to. Of course, anything can happen, of course, but the problem with the Rams right now is that because of management's, I don't even know what word to describe some of the things they've done, but because of the way management has handled a lot of different situations, they've put Malavasi in a very difficult situation. Anytime you put a coach in a situation where he has to take sides, either to side with management or with the players, it puts him in a very tough spot. And Malavasi pretty much has sided with management in most cases, and he may have lost the respect of some of the players. And of course, the Dan Pastorini tryout last week was interesting, where Malavasi didn't necessarily want him, and the GM Don Klosterman did. So there's I think there's a lot of friction there. And anytime you have those situations, it's going to affect the football team. I know a lot of people will say, well, they're professionals and they go out in the field and play. But any sport, no matter what it is, or any business, you have to be mentally prepared to give that full concentration. And anytime you have distractions, it's going to take away from your performance. And I really believe that's why a team like New England always continues to have problems, and Los Angeles certainly last year had them for much of the season, and they're starting this year with the same situation.
Well, I think they're finished with their problems. They're going to start playing some ball now.
Well, you can't be. Well, they're not finished. You can't say they're finished with the problems when number one,
you have a quarterback situation that's up in the air. Number two, Fred Dreyer's on the team. And every day in practice, the players are reminded the way Fred Dreyer was treated. And it's always there. Now, Fred Dreyer wasn't there, and they were able to get rid of him, or able to cut him, or whatever. Perhaps after some period of time, that would be true. But as long as Fred Dreyer is there and in the locker room and talking to players and a part of the team, even though he's not a part of the team in many respects, that's going to remind the players of how he was treated. And as one player said, if they ever do to me what they do to Fred, I'll torch the place. And anytime you have feelings like that towards management, I think it can have a negative effect.
Okay, Rocky, thank you very much for the call. You're on Sports Talk. Hello.
This is Johnny from Houston.
Yes, Johnny.
Yeah, I got a question for Howard. I'm a Cowboy fan, but, the last game, Cowboys been playing. Don't you think that they've been having trouble getting in the end zone? Kicking out in field goals?
They have kicked a bunch of field goals. Septien with, what do you have, 4 tonight, 3 tonight?
Yeah, 3 tonight. He missed one.
Yeah, 3 tonight, and
he has 4 against
before the game. He had 7, so that's 10 in 3 games. That is a bunch of field goals. But of course, they haven't needed it. They haven't really been in a game yet where they've been challenged, and they've had to get the ball in the end zone. So yeah, I think the jury is basically still out on that. If I was a Cowboy fan, what I'd be concerned with more than anything would be pretty much the defense.
Yeah, well, the secondary, they need a lot of improvement. Because what I've noticed, Washington, St. Louis, and New England, man, I think Dallas is second to last in the NFC in pass defense.
That's right. Going into tonight's game, they had allowed 271 yards a game, which was worse than the NFC. This is before tonight's game for Dallas, but counting all the other teams that had played yesterday. They were last in the NFC, allowing 271, and the only team worse, Baltimore and Kansas City and San Diego were worse than the AFC. So
can that be misleading possibly with a team that's 3-0 and is constantly ahead in games? Isn't the opposition always passing?
Well, that's true. That's a good point. When the other team is passing a lot, the yardage sometimes isn't the key. The key statistic a lot of times would be average per attempt, or in completion percentage also, because you can still be playing pretty good pass defense, but still give up a lot of yards. So that's a good point. So it remains to be seen when the Cowboys start playing the good teams on their schedule, and the real solid teams, how they do it. Philadelphia is obviously their key competition in that division. Right now, Philadelphia is better than Dallas defensively.
Philadelphia is going to be in a lot of trouble because, what I say is because, what Philadelphia said last year in the playoffs, that they, kicked their, and they send the Cowboys back to Dallas with their tails between their legs. And I don't know, Dallas gets, I've noticed that they get really emotional when, things like that happen. And I think Philadelphia's in trouble this year. They shouldn't, Philadelphia's good. And, and I got great respect for them. But it's like, the same thing in boxing. When there's a good boxer, and you give him an incentive, to come back at you, he's going to come back at you.
I would agree. Certainly, the 2 times those 2 teams play this year are probably going to be classics. Right now, I think Philadelphia defensively is ahead of Dallas, but of course, Dallas probably has a few more offensive weapons than Philadelphia, so Philadelphia's defense is going to be challenged perhaps a little more. So, but those are 2 super teams, and I would expect one of those 2 to represent the NFC in the Super Bowl.
All right, we're going to take a timeout right now. Timeout number 1. Charge to the local stations, and then we'll come back and take more calls at 800-243-8111. Stay with us. All right, back with Jay Howard on Sports Talk. Howard Balzer alongside, and you're on the air. Hello.
Hi, this is Mark from Dallas. How you doing?
Good.
I got a couple of questions. Howard?
Yes.
Hi, I'd like to ask you a couple of questions on college football.
Okay.
You have two of the best college games of the year this weekend, Penn State at Nebraska and Oklahoma at USC. Your comments on both games?
One comment is I wish Penn State Nebraska was on TV.
I can't believe it's not.
But I think one of the things is they're saving Penn State for their other games during the year. I know they got Alabama coming up, Notre Dame, and Pitt. So I'm sure that must be the reason is they're saving Penn State for some appearances later in the season. Nebraska is hard to figure right at this time. They lost to an Iowa team that then turned around and lost to Iowa State, and then they beat Florida State, but the Seminoles aren't the team this year that they were last year. And Penn State, of course, has only played Colgate so far, and that's hardly a judge. And Penn State is very tough this year. They have one of their strongest teams in many years, but also one of their hardest schedules. Penn State was embarrassed a bit by Nebraska last year, and I'm looking for Penn State to win that one in a close game. As for USC Oklahoma, early in the season, Oklahoma always seems to have some problems holding on to the ball, turnover problems. USC is always a solid team. It's going to be a high-scoring game. There's going to be a lot of rushing yards, I'm sure, in it. But I expect USC to win that game.
Rather easily?
No, I don't think you ever win a game rather easily against Oklahoma.
Oklahoma's probably got some of the best athletes on a team of any team in the country.
Well, they always do. That's why I say you never beat Oklahoma easily. But I think USC will win by just a little more than a field goal.
Okay, one other quick question. Your comments on next Monday night's game, Los Angeles and Chicago.
Who cares?
Put me to sleep.
Yeah.
Do you think LA can come back and win another one?
The Bears now, they finally got win number one under their belt. And the Bears are a solid team. And the Rams, of course, we don't know who's going to be playing quarterback. Hayden got hurt yesterday. Rutledge is just a reasonable facsimile of a pro quarterback.
Has Pastorini signed yet?
Excuse me?
Has Pastorini been signed?
Not that I've seen. I don't think he's not been signed as far as I know. And even if he would, I would doubt if he'd be able to play too much, especially since Malavasi's already gone on record as saying he's not too interested in having him. And he says no matter what the GM says, I'm going to play the players I want to play. So
how will Philadelphia be hurt by Montgomery's loss for 4 to 6 weeks?
Well, not knowing their schedule right offhand, last year he missed a number of games, and they were able to win because of their great defense. And Louis Jamona, obviously, Will Montgomery, but they were able to win with him last year, and they'll still win games without Will Montgomery. They've proved it in the past. They're a very deep team. I wouldn't be surprised to see Perry Harrington playing a lot of halfback instead of Giamona. So they're not going to be as strong, but they're still going to win their share of games because their defense is so good.
Okay. All right, Mark. Thank you very much for the call. We'll be back right after this. Back on Sports Talk, and you're on the air. Hello. Hello. Come on. Now they're going to be mad at me because I hung up on him, didn't give him a chance to talk. Let's go to the next caller. Are you there? Hello? Yes, go ahead, please.
Hi.
Fine. Now, do you want to ask a question or what?
Sure.
All right. Who's this?
This is Moose from McGuanago.
From where?
McGuanago.
Where's that?
Okay, that's between Bob and Kenosha and Fish in Milwaukee.
Oh, it's in Wisconsin.
You got it.
Okay, go ahead. Moose.
Okay, I'm wondering, I've been a Packer fan for quite a while, but kind of losing my optimism, especially after seeing them against L.A. And I thought Jefferson might be a ray of sunlight, but now I'm losing my optimism on that. Do you know what does it look like with Jefferson? Is he going to be coming to the Packers? And if so, would he be staying?
Well, I'm sure if they eventually sign him, he'll be staying, I would expect. It's hard to say right now. Anytime you deal with Howard Slusher, it's very hard to say. A lot of teams have thought they were close to agreements, and then at the last minute, things turned sour. So I'm sure that Green Bay thought they had a pretty good idea when they acquired him what kind of demands he'd be making. Otherwise, they wouldn't have made the deal. Because certainly the one thing the Packers management doesn't want to do now is to get fans' hopes up and then have those hopes quashed. Certainly they have a feeling of what he wanted, And now, of course, after the trade, probably Jefferson's demands went a little higher than they probably were. And the Packers are in a unique situation now because the James Lofton situation, they wouldn't actually renegotiate the contract. They wrote all kinds of incentives in and gave a $100,000 bonus for reporting to training camp, but they actually didn't touch the main part of the contract. And now you have Jefferson, who is also basically under contract, and the Packers have to be careful, I would think, because of the situation with Lofton and how they go about handling Jefferson's contract. And so that's one of the considerations I'm sure that's there. And
well, there's also a lot of talk that even if they do get Jefferson, that they might just use him because he's very strong. If they would want to make a trade, they could pick up some defensive backs or something like that.
Well, anything's possible. But again, I would think that if you can get a talent like Jefferson, I would hold on to him.
Yeah, another thing, I think Lofton is dissatisfied in Green Bay. I don't think he's ever been really happy with being here.
That's true. He's never been really happy, but I'm sure if he had Jefferson on his team, it might make him a little happier.
Right. Okay, I'd like to ask you a question too, Howard. If you would be starting a franchise up and you could have any player in the NFL, what player would you pick?
Oh, wow. Starting an NFL franchise right now, what player would I take? Now, of course, we're assuming this is an expansion team.
Right.
As my number one pick.
You'd probably want youth, I suppose.
Well, sure, you got to have, if it's an expansion team, you have to have youth. And, wow, that's a tough one. I would say, it's so difficult. My first thought is towards defense, because that's what you really build with. But then you say, well, am I going to play a 3-4 or a 4-3? That would have a lot to do with it. If you're going to play a 3-4, then you might want a guy like Charlie Johnson or Fred Smirlis as the nose tackle. If you're going to play a 4-3, then I'd want a real top defensive end. Mm-hmm. Wow, that's a heck of a question. Well, you know, one guy I wouldn't mind. I'll tell you, Nolan Cromwell.
Nolan Cromwell.
Now, I'm not saying he's the guy because I'll probably keep thinking of another guy. But there's a guy who still has some pretty good youth. He's an excellent leader. He's a great athlete. He can do a lot of things for you. He's a good leader in the defense. He might not be my number one pick, but he'd be pretty close to it. Jerry Robinson, a guy like him might be up there also. It's a great young linebacker.
All right, Moose.
Should be the Rams quarterback, actually.
All right, Moose, thanks for the call. Got to run. By the way, injury to Wilbert Montgomery, not as serious as first thought. They say he will miss the next game, but be ready for the game against Atlanta. We'll come back in just 70 seconds. Stay with us.
Enterprise Radio can't take you out to the ball game, but it can put you in with the crowd. The Sports Network lets you in on why and how it all happened.
This is Pure Country, 1460 WOKO, Albany.
Welcome back to Sports Talk, everyone. A service of Enterprise Radio. Jay Howard with you at 800-243-8111 across the country. In Connecticut, 1-800-842-9558 for anything you want to talk about in the world of sports. No further update from Anaheim. Still 4-3 California over the White Sox. Still batting, apparently, in the bottom of the eighth inning are the Angels. Right now, let's go back to the phone calls for Howard Balls with the Sporting News. You're on Sports Talk. Hello.
Okay, this is Steve from Houston.
Yeah.
And I'd like to know, do you know any true statement about when Gifford Nielsen is going to be back?
Well, he'll be eligible. He'll be eligible to come back after Houston's next game, and I would think that at that time they would at least activate him anyway, because originally they said the injury would sideline him for about 4 to 6 weeks, and so it will be about 5 weeks, I think. After the injury, after Houston's next game, but he can't come back until after that game. Then I would think, as long as they're winning, I would think he's going to remain the backup quarterback.
Okay, and also, later on today on the radio, I heard that they're talking about trading J.C. Wilson and Dave Casper off the Oilers to some other team. Do you know anything about that?
I wouldn't be surprised to see Casper traded. He's not starting now.
I know he's injured.
And
They said he's injured.
right, he's got a slight injury, but it's not real serious. And he has been playing some special teams for him. I wouldn't be surprised to see him traded, but I would think that Houston won't get what they gave up last year for him.
Mm-hmm.
And J.C. Wilson, I'm not sure about that one. Although with a cornerback, he's a pretty good cornerback, not a great one. But
when I heard this, that really surprised me about J.C. Wilson because he's playing really good.
yeah, I would be surprised if he was traded, unless Houston would be getting a great player in return.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you for the call, Steve. By the way, that game has just ended in Anaheim. It jumped from the bottom of the 8th to a final score. How it did that, I don't know. Anyway, California won by a score of 6-3 over the White Sox. The winning pitcher, Renko, 7-4. Ossie with his 10th save. Burns, the loser, 9-5. Home runs for the White Sox. Baines is 7th. Morrison is 10th. And for California, Baylor hit his 16th home run of the year. You're on Sports Talk. Hello.
This is the Rocket.
Yeah.
Way to pick 'em, Jay.
What do you mean?
Clemson over Georgia.
Yeah, well, that's the way it goes.
Howard, I totally disagree with you on the two college games this weekend. I think Nebraska's going to walk all over Penn State. Now, where's that game at?
It's in Lincoln.
I think they'll walk all over them. And like I've told Jay before, I think Oklahoma will beat SC. And then
sounds like a Big 8 fan to me.
Well, no, I'm a big Longhorn fan. The following week, the Longhorns will be number 1. Have you seen any statistics from the Longhorns game over North Texas State last Saturday?
No, I didn't.
Minus 17 yards rushing on 29 carries.
Well, I'm sure North Texas State's running game isn't going to be challenging for any national records this year.
Yeah, but that 29 carries, you at least get a plus yardage out of that, couldn't you?
Yeah, who knows? A lot of that might be. Now, obviously I said I didn't see the game. A lot of that might be the quarterback, because remember in college football, if the quarterback fades back to pass and is sacked, it goes against the rushing. So without seeing the game and seeing the individual statistics, we don't know how much of that minus yardage might have been attributed to a quarterback sack.
It was a lot of sacks.
Okay, so that's not really a reflection on the rushing game as it is on the passing.
But
it still does show a good defense. Don't get me wrong.
I think they can be number 1 if with the way the season's going so far, anybody could probably end up being number 1.
Well, that's true. It's usually so often it's usually the case in college because there's gonna. I would doubt if a team would make it through the season undefeated, and there's gonna be a bunch of teams coming up near the end of the year probably with 1 loss and maybe 2, and it's of course it's gonna be very interesting to see who is rated number 1. It's just a shame there isn't a tournament to really decide a true champion.
You think if Texas goes undefeated, they can be number 1?
They'd be pretty hard. There'd have to be another undefeated team to beat them out, I would think. If they made it through the whole time, if they entered the Cotton Bowl as undefeated, they'd probably be playing a pretty tough ball club. And if they remained undefeated after the Cotton Bowl, I would think that if there would have to be another undefeated team, perhaps a team from the Pac-10 or somewhere else that would be undefeated that hadn't played them that could only beat them out. But if you're undefeated, it's very rare that you have 2 undefeated teams in one season.
All right, Rocket, thanks for the call. Take care. We will take a station break right now. Then we'll come back and take more calls at 800-243-8111. Howard Balls was with us. We'll continue for a Monday night and a Tuesday morning in just 60 seconds. We're back on Nationwide Sports Talk, and you're on the air. Hello.
Hello?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm name's Ed from Massachusetts.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wanted somebody to console me. I'm a big Patriots fan, and I just got through watching that game, and I just don't know what's wrong with them, and I just don't know if you could tell me if you think it's the coaching or what, but I
I mean, like the Dallas Cowboys, I think they should have won that game, and just mistakes after mistake after mistake, and I just think that the Patriots are a better team than they are, and I think that they could be mentioned in the same breath with the Cowboys and the Eagles, and I think if they were in their division, they would be, because in their conference, I mean, but it's just so disheartening, you know?
Well, like you said, mistake after mistake, and I haven't seen the statistics on the game yet, but going into tonight's game, New England had committed 8 turnovers, and anytime you average 4 turnovers a game, I don't know what they had tonight, but it was probably close to 4, if not more.
I think it was reaching in double figures.
Anytime you have that many turnovers, it's going to hurt. And turnovers, mistakes, is the mark of an undisciplined football team.
Well, I don't know if they were in the coaching or what. I mean, because if you've seen the game, I know you didn't get a chance to see the game, but
yeah, I saw the game.
Did you see the game?
Yeah.
Oh, you did see the game. Well, if you've seen the game, you can see that New England. Just like before the half, they had a chance to score a touchdown. You know, before the halftime.
Mm-hmm.
When I think Andy Johnson fumbled. I mean, they're going to put them in front, 21-14, and it seemed like they outplayed Dallas, and it seemed like it's just, I don't know, even they got a touchdown call back because they said Kavanaugh was, down. They hit him in the grass, but it just seemed like they are an unlucky team or something. A hard luck hits them.
Well, luck has a bit to do with it. I thought that call when on the touchdown that was called back, it was quite questionable whether Kavanaugh was actually in Harvey Martin's grasp at the time they blew the whistle.
Right.
And those things just give coaches gray hairs. And I'm sure that Ron Earhart, people say, well, Earhart it's got to be Earhart. It's got to be the coaching. And he's got to be the most frustrated person of all, standing there watching this stuff happen, watching the team make turnovers. But turnovers are the mark of an undisciplined team. Now, I'm not saying it's all coaching, but it's concentration. You just can't make mistakes consistently in this league and expect to win football games. And concentration comes from mental preparation and being ready mentally. And the Patriots, I think that's been their problem over the years, is that they just don't have that intensity, that super preparation.
Yeah, but you figure they would. They're doing it. They're 2-0. I mean 0-2, and this is a big game for them. And it just would seem like they would have for this game. It seemed like they would want to, really play. A lot of intensity.
They're playing an excellent football team. And that's the thing that has to be taken into account. As good as New England should be, they've lost now two games in a row to Philadelphia and Dallas, the cream of the crop in the NFC and the league. So certainly if they had won those 2 games, everyone in New England would probably be talking Super Bowl. So it's one of those things where they just got to bounce back, and it's not going to get any easier. Next week they're in Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh seemed to get on track yesterday against the Jets. And if they fall to 0-4, then the roars could really get loud around Foxborough.
That was definitely one frustrated football fan. Another caller. You're on Sports Talk. Hello.
This is Sean from Wasaki.
Yeah.
Howard, I know you just made a comment about John Jefferson a couple of calls ago, and I'd like to know what you think he's going to mean to the team in terms of how well they'll continue to play from now on. I think that he'll mean a lot to the team, especially with the schedule that they have. I think they play about the worst secondaries and the worst defensive teams in football from now on to the end of the year. And I think that could really mean something for the Packers, the way they're playing defensively and now with the addition of Jefferson.
Well, it should. I'm sure Lynn Dickey was one of the happiest guys in the world when the trade was announced. And it's got to make the Packers a very strong team. Right now, you look at that division, and every team is 1-2, which isn't a surprise when you consider the NFC Central. And if they could get Jefferson signed and in uniform, I would think that it automatically makes Green Bay gives them an excellent chance of winning the division, because that division just isn't that great. There's a lot of, and like you said, they don't have the real tough schedule. Every other team in that division has to play San Diego, Oakland, Kansas City, and Denver, and Green Bay doesn't have to play them. And that could make a big difference towards who wins that division.
I think the schedule is the key thing. In fact, although I don't think they're going to be as good as a team that might win 11 or 12 games, I fail to see how they can't fail to win that many, considering the way they've played against teams like those in the past. They've beaten teams like the Giants, they played twice, and Seattle and San Francisco and New Orleans and the Jets. They play both teams plus the conference, and with a schedule like that, if they play up their potential, they could easily win 11, 12 games this year.
Well, I don't know if
I think
to win 12 games, that means they got to go 11 and 2. I don't care how easy the schedule is.
Well, I'm not saying that they're just getting easily, but if they can get 2 or 3 wins under their belts in a row, they will, I think, because I've never won 2 in a row in 3 or 4 years.
Well, they might win the division, but if they go 12 and 4, I'd be one of the most surprised people in the country.
All right, Sean. Thank you very much for the call. We'll be back right after this. In the American League, Boston beat Milwaukee 9-3. Detroit over Baltimore 5-1. Oakland and Toronto were rained out. Doubleheader later today. Cleveland 5, the Yankees nothing. Texas 4, Seattle 1. Minnesota 7, Kansas City 2. California 6, Chicago 3. National League, the Cardinals 2 and the Cubs nothing. Philadelphia lost to Montreal 1-0 in 17 innings. The Mets beat Pittsburgh 4-3 in 13 innings. San Diego shut out Cincinnati 6-0. And in the Monday Night Football game, Dallas beat New England 35-21. You're on Sports Talk. Hello.
Hi, this is Ross from Houston.
Yeah.
I was calling to find out the status of Jerry Butler, wide receiver for the Bills. He went out last week, and I never heard what happened to him.
Yeah, they say he got poked in the eye, and they said the swelling went down, and he is expected to play this week when Buffalo plays at Cincinnati. But the Bills did announce that inside linebacker Shane Nelson, who hurt his knee in that game, it's not a real serious knee injury, but he will not play this Sunday against the Bengals.
Okay, can you tell me any information about this #1 draft choice they had that had the Guillain Barre
Booker Moore? He's been doing some light workouts with him, throwing the ball around and doing some running, and I guess there's a long shot he might be ready towards the end of the season, but I'm sure they're not going to rush it. And chances are he probably won't play this season, but of course you never know if he makes a good recovery from the illness.
Okay, thanks very much.
Thank you for the call. All right, 800-243-8111. You're on Sports Talk. Hello.
Yeah, how you doing, Jerry?
Good.
I'd like to ask you and Howard about the Lions. It seems like they can't get over that jinx in Minnesota.
Yeah, sure. Who's this?
Yeah, this is Ed from Muskegon.
Muskegon. Where's that?
In Michigan.
Okay.
And I'd like to say that it seems like when they get their offense going, they can't get their defense going, and when they get the defense going, their offense flutters. What does Howard think about it?
That's, of course, all coaches lament when things like that happen. And the interesting comparison to the Lions in the last 2 weeks was that against San Diego, the Lions are driving down the field, and they're very close to scoring a go-ahead touchdown, and San Diego comes up with the big defensive play to stop them. Then yesterday, the Lions defense couldn't stop Minnesota from driving down the field and getting the winning field goal. So if you're gonna win consistently in this league, you got to come up with the big plays on, like you said, on both sides of the line of scrimmage. You got to come up with the big offensive play when you can win a game, but you also got to come up with the big defensive play and put a team away. And when Minnesota was driving, they had to know that Tommy Kramer was going to be putting the ball up on just about every play, and they knew it and couldn't stop it. And it's still early in the season, though, and the Lions are tied for first place. So if you're 1-2 and tied for first, I guess you're still in pretty good shape. But they've got to be able to come up with the big play, and that's true of any team.
Yeah, I found out too on the last play when Danielson threw that pass with 1 second left. Found out that Mark Nichols can catch a pass in the crowd.
Yeah.
He had a bunch of guys around him, and he caught it at the 15-yard line, but they ran out of time.
Right.
All right.
Nichols is going to be a good receiver.
I have a good morning now.
Bye-bye. 800-243-8111. That's the national number. Another timeout for the local stations. Then we'll come back with more calls at 800-243-8111 right after this. Stay with us. 8.5 minutes before the hour, and you're on Sports Talk. Hello.
Hi, this is Ron from Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah, Ron.
Yeah, I'd like to know what you think now that 3 weeks into the NFL season, what the Dolphins' chances are in the AFC East now.
The who?
Dolphins.
Well, if you were listening to this show, I said before the season that I thought Miami was going to be the surprise team in that division, and I've seen nothing so far to make me change my mind. I've always been a believer in defense, and if you have a great defense, the other things somehow find a way to fall into place, and you're going to be in. Even if your offense isn't doing too much, you're still going to remain close in the game. And the Dolphins, through 3 games, have allowed only 27 points, which is the second lowest total in the league. Buffalo has allowed 23, and Philadelphia has also allowed only 27. And the Dolphins in 3 games have 16 sacks. So anytime you can play defense like that and allow opponents' rushing games only 88 yards a game, you're gonna win some ball games. And I'm not surprised because, like I said before the season, I expected the Dolphins to be perhaps a surprise contender in that division.
What do you think of Shula starting Don Strock in the second half yesterday? Obviously, it was a good move being they won, but do you think they should go through the season with 2 quarterbacks like that?
Well, again, Woodley wasn't playing that bad, statistically anyway, but
he was overthrowing a lot of receivers.
Right, he had overthrown a lot of receivers, and he just wasn't having a sharp day. And anytime you can have a relief pitcher come off the bench when your number 1 guy isn't playing too well and give your team a little lift, then it's a positive thing. I expect David Woodley to be the starter again next week when
Shula said he's going to start.
What's that?
Shula did say that Woodley would start next
week. Right, so when the Dolphins play in Baltimore, and I think that's positive when you can have a situation like that. I'm sure Don Strock would love to be the starter, but anytime you can have a guy like Woodley and then have Strock in relief, you're in pretty good shape. And they're just a very strong team. Defensively, that's the name of the game in the NFL. You can say all you want about all the passing offense and all the offenses and that stuff, but it's the teams with defense that are going to win consistently.
As far as changing quarterbacks, wasn't that one of Shula's policies early on with Bob Greasy? The guy, Morrow coming in and playing, if you think back that far?
Well, he had Morrow for the backup in that one season, and
that was the one season when Greasy got hurt.
Yeah, that's the season they went undefeated. Greasy got hurt in, I think, the 5th game against San Diego, and Morrow came in.
Right, Morrow played the whole year, and then when Greasy was healthy, Greasy came in for Morrow and won one of the playoff games and played well, and then Greasy played in the Super Bowl and, of course, won the game. So, Shula, he's not afraid to make decisions, and he'll play who he thinks is going to do the best job.
All right.
And the guy's just a master. There's nothing else you can say other than that about Don Shula.
Ron, thanks for the call.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, let's go back to the phone. Sports Talk, hello.
Okay, David from Houston.
Yes, David.
Okay, and I want to know what's the difference between running Earl out of the eye and the far. Well, what's the difference between running him out of the eye and what? And the far set, the pro set. Well, running him out of the eye, he's set a little deeper in the formation, and he has a little more time to pick his hole. Of course, he has more power than a Wilbert Montgomery, let's say, but when you start that far back, you can sort of read a little better what's in front of you and watch the way the blocking develops and then make your cut and go to the hole that you see, whereas running out of the split back of the pro set formation, you pretty well have to go to where the play is designed. You just don't have the time, and you're going on a little different angle, so it's not as easy to cut, let's say, back inside as Wilbert Montgomery will do quite often running from the eye. And I would say that's the basic difference. And also in the eye, you probably get a little better blocking from your fullback because he can lead the way a little better than in the other formation. Okay, and that brings up a couple of more questions. Okay, don't you think he's better running out of the eye, and why wouldn't Eddie Bell stick with the eye? Well, you're right, he's definitely better running out of the eye, but Ed Biles has felt... It's interesting because Bum Phillips was pretty... Or anyway, the reason they gave that he was fired was because he couldn't generate much offense, and
Now Ed Biles changed the offense around a bit, using Earl not out of the eye, and yet the offense really hasn't shown a heck of a lot in 3 games. The Oilers are 2-1, but they've only scored 46 points. And it's the defense, really, which won it for them the last few years and which is winning for them so far this season. So if your offense isn't going to work in that formation, I think it's best to go back to the other one. That's up to Ed Biles. I'm sure he wants to stick with it a little longer before he goes back to anything else.
Okay, thank you much.
All right, thank you for the call, David. We have time for one more caller. If the caller will be real quick. Can you be quick?
Yeah.
Go.
Yeah, do you think that this is Scott from Denver?
Yeah.
Do you think that the Broncos made a very good move by trading Jeff Naples and Matt Robinson to get Steve DeBerg?
Well, they didn't trade those guys. They cut Robinson, they cut Napple to get DeBerg, and Napple's now in Calgary of the CFL. Robinson, of course, with Buffalo. But DeBerg, they feel is a more experienced backup to Craig Morton. Of course, Robinson had some experience, but obviously he didn't show enough to Dan Reeves, and he felt he was getting a pretty good backup to Morton in case something would happen to him.
And they'll bring along Mark Herman as the year goes on?
Yeah, I'm sure Herman, more than anyone, is probably the quarterback of the future there, although DeBerg might end up seeing quite a bit of action until Herman is ready, if something would happen, of course, to Morton. But Morton had a pretty good second half yesterday, and he still proved he can play a little quarterback in this league.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Okay, Scott, thank you for the call. Howard, we finished 3 weeks of the NFL, and it's proving to be as unpredictable as last season. I expect week number 4 will probably be the same way.
It always is. There'll always be some upsets, and like I said, I become conditioned. Nothing surprises me anymore.
All right, Howard, thanks for joining us. We'll talk with you next week.
Okay.
All right, Howard Balzer from the Sporting News. And if you're leaving us right now at the end of the hour, we wish you all a very pleasant good day and invite you to join us again tomorrow. If you're coming back, give us a call. National number is 800-243-8111. We'll take a break here for about 6 minutes and come back with more calls. This is Enterprise Radio, the Sports Network.
Albany's first country music station, 1460 WOKO Albany. Country music and all the sports. What a combination.
Sports update from Enterprise Radio. I'm Shelley Adler. The Philadelphia Phillies went 17 innings with the Montreal Expos in chilly Montreal, only to lose 1-0. Andre Dawson singled home Rodney Scott in the bottom of the 17th. The pitchers' duel between Steve Carlton and Ray Burris went 10 innings, with each starter giving up only 3 hits.
Yeah, they both were dealing pretty good. Carlton throwing, I guess, tonight about as well as I've seen him throw. And Burris likewise. They seem to have command of the breaking balls and they spotted the fastballs in and out. And they both threw good games, and just that luck, neither one of them could come out with a victory.
Andre Dawson in Montreal within 1.5 games of first place St. Louis in the National League East. The front-running Cards blanked the Cubs 2-0. St. Louis coming off that 3-game loss weekend to the New York Mets, who won their 4th straight, 4-3 over Pittsburgh in 13. John Stearns scoring the winning run on a wild pitch.
Big games every night now. We just got to keep this momentum rolling. We've got 4 in a row now, and momentum's important.
John Stearns and the Mets 2.5 games out of first in the National League East. In the West, San Diego blanked Cincinnati 6-0. More after this. The logjam continues in the American League East. The Tigers on top by a half game, followed by Boston and then the Milwaukee Brewers. Does Milwaukee relief pitcher Raleigh Fingers have a pick?
Everybody's so close right now that, whoever gets hot, whoever wins 6 or 7 ball games in a row will probably be the team that wins it. So that's what we're going to have to try and do, is maybe try and sweep a couple of these series that we have.
Raleigh Fingers, who did not figure in the Brewers' 9-3 loss to Boston. Dave Stapleton had a home run. Dennis Eckersley picked up the win. That's 3 straight for Boston. 3 straight for Detroit. The Tigers dumped Baltimore 5-1. Milt Wilcox, a 6-hitter. Rick Wade 6-hit the New York Yankees. Cleveland with the 5-0 win.
It was a great victory. I've had a kind of a horrible second half, and I haven't really been able to put too many games together in a row, and it was just a great effort for us to come in tonight after losing 2 out of 3 to the Tigers and take this first game of this series. So it was just super.
That's Rick Waits of Cleveland. Texas 4-1 over Seattle. Danny Darwin, a 3-hitter. Minnesota took the KC Royals 7-2. California over Chicago 6-3. Oakland at Toronto postponed by rain. This is Enterprise Radio, the Sports Network.